What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down something with Tesla SPY in the overall market and break down some very important levels to watch for. But just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Webull link. If you deposit any amount of money, you're guaranteed 12 free stocks. If you deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 in total. And deposit $25,000 or more, you're guaranteed 75. The offer ends very soon in just about 3 weeks. Anyways, now let's talk about the market. So things are very interesting right now. We actually saw SPY and the QQQ try to push up. We saw SPY break its all-time highs again, despite the fact that we saw an increase in inflation, and the market's still holding up decently. I do want to warn you guys about something very important about SPY. And as far as Tesla goes, we're still kind of shuffling just under 220. So the question is, what's affecting the markets? What should we be watching for? We had the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report that was below expectations. 5-year inflationary expectations are still decent, but everything else is showing some weakness. Consumer sentiment is very weak about the economy, and people are still worried about, inflationary expectations going up and other factors like that. So I just wanted to call that out. As far as the market goes on Monday, we just have a bunch of Fed speakers, but there's not really much else coming out until we get closer to like Tuesday or Wednesday. So the market has a very, very interesting period. As far as SPY goes, we have basically our very, very key levels right over here. We have 571 as max pain. The 2.98 puts to call ratio. Over 893,000 of these puts are expiring, and over 300,000 of these calls. So I'll be watching to see how this changes over time. The majority of positions are in puts right now. Now, one thing I was mentioning is the fact that Elon Musk has been hyping this $30,000 self-driving cybercab, which is very, very awesome. They also have a very large robo-van that could seat like 20 people, but waiting to see what's going to happen over the next few years once this production really starts. So, yes, Musk's dates are not always perfect, but that's like the main thing that's making headlines about Tesla. And unfortunately, we didn't really get our Model 2. So, that it is what it is. We just have to continue from here. I still think it's great that the Cybercab is going to be coming out and Tesla's investing in something that's going to generate, billions, if not trillions in revenue over the next couple of years slash decades. Over decades, Tesla's revenue could once again hit hundreds of billions and eventually the trillions. Yes, that's very, very true. But, for us to get there, we have to take it one step at a time. The first thing Tesla has to focus on is getting their sales up. And then as time goes on with the Cybercab coming out, Tesla has to focus on getting their approvals necessary and then working on different mechanisms to help start producing it and then scaling it, doing all those different things. So we're taking this one step at a time, but so far Tesla's making some great progress. What do I see for the market from this point on? Tesla's clearly on a bit of a downtrend right here. Instead of getting a big bounce, we gapped down, we just kind of dipped really hard. So here are some levels to watch for. Basically, we have some very, very tight supports. Tesla's support that's trying to hold it up right here is around this 219 zone. If that were to fail, we're looking for 217 as our target. 217 is where we got to bounce historically. And then below that, we have the 214.5 area as the next support. If that fails, let's expect a big rug pull in Tesla to fill this gap all the way down to the 211s. So we have 211, 214, and 217 as our main supports below 220. We have resistance to watch for at 222 and then 225 above that. If we get above 225, we're looking for a push closer to about 230 all over again. So we'll see if Tesla tries to get back up to these levels. But so far, I would just say that we are still technically bearish. With the whole event that came out, there's a lot of bearish momentum that remains. This could continue to cause Tesla to dip later into next week. For now, we're just consolidating very close to 220, so I expect that to continue. Then we'll see how things end up progressing from here. As far as SPY goes, we've pushed very nicely to about the 580 area. Because we broke the all-time high, we have been trying to push. But here's the issue with SPY. We have a very, very nice looking rising wedge-like structure. This does not mean just YOLO into shorts for no reason. You have to be very mindful and very careful while managing risks. But just note this. We are in a rising wedge-like structure. We're still respecting it despite this push. I just want to say that despite the fact that the market is bullish, technically we are trying to push higher. There is a rising wedge, and these do tend to lead to big rug pulls in the future. So, could we get a rug pull approaching the election? Will be after the election. We'll just have to wait and see. We have 580 as our resistance. If that breaks, we could get closer to 581. And if we end up losing 579, we could be dipping all the way back down to the 577 area, the previous all-time high. As of right now, we're trying to hold up. There's a rising wedge that's the bigger structure, but there's no sign of us rejecting it, so we have to give this a little bit more time to develop. For Nvidia, we pushed up to 135. We have not been able to break through this. We're kind of consolidating up here. If we break it, we could get closer to 137 than 140. If we don't break 135, there's a risk of dipping back down towards 132.75. So watch and see how this ends up moving. For Bitcoin, we're trying to push higher. We're looking for basically 62,500 is our target. Could push closer to that level before it tries to dip back down. But overall, look for a little bit more upside on Bitcoin for the time being. As far as ES goes, we're at all-time highs, but despite the fact that we're at these highs, there is still a slight looking divergence that could be forming right over here with volume. So we're still bullish. We're going to be looking for that 58.60 areas tough resistance. If that breaks, we're looking for 58.80. But just know that if we lose 58.19, we'll be dipping. As of right now, we're holding up nicely, so we favor the upwards direction. For NQ, we're looking more bullish. We have a nice looking accumulation structure. If we lose 20,346, we're looking for 20,234. If we keep this push up, we're looking for basically 20,500 as resistance, followed by much higher levels. So we could try to push higher for 20,500. If we break this high up here, we could try to break out to these much higher areas. But be careful because we also have a rising wedge forming on NQ and the QQQ. And QQQ could try to break these highs. It's still possible. We try to fill the gap all the way up to about 496. We could go a little bit higher for those gap fills, but then be careful as we hit tough resistance between 494 and 500. I think that if we do fill the gap to 496, I'd be looking to see if we get stopped out at the resistance. For Apple, we pushed all the way up to about 230, but I said to watch resistance up there. We could be dipping, and we ended up dipping back down to our 20 EMA. So we have 225 as our main support. We'll see how things end up going from here, so be a little bit more careful. There's also some other news that came out. Basically, Apple is transitioning to USB-C ports for with the iPhone 15. Not to mention their later iPhones. And then on top of that, they've scaled back on their plans about the Apple Car, and they've also kind of like scaled back on some projects. I've seen a little bit of talk about that. So there's a risk of 227 with that news coming out. The IWM were pushing very, very nicely after we got the PPI report. So this is looking at 220 as our support. If we continue to hold above that, we're looking for 222. If 220 fails us, still we're looking for basically 218. Overall, it still looks more bullish. For Coinbase, I look more bullish. We could be looking for this imbalance fill. We could get closer to 177 than 180. And then we'll see if we reject off those resistance areas. We're still doing a good job nonetheless. For Amazon, we look a little bit more bullish. 190 is going to be our resistance. If that breaks, we go up to about 191. If we can't break 190, we're looking for a dip back down to 185, in my opinion. As of right now, it's trying to get bought back up. Meta is trying to reclaim 587. We'll see if we hold above that or not. If it rejects there, we could be dipping closer to about the 580 area. If we break past 587, we're going to be pushing higher. So watch to see what the reaction happens to be. Microsoft is kind of stuck in the middle. We're not holding above 416, so the odds are favoring us dipping closer to like 410. So we'll see how it reacts to 416. For Google, we're trying to push higher. We're looking for basically 164 to 165. If you reject, we're going to be dipping back down to 163. And if we break this, we're going to push higher. So give this the time it needs. With that being said, guys, I want to thank you all so much for listening. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Just know that Tesla's doing an interesting job of trying to get back above 220. But like I said before, there's going to be a lot of bearish momentum, so I wouldn't turn too bullish yet. So be careful on Tesla. We'll see if we get a small rebound for next week, but there still is a risk of us coming down to fill this gap down here. So be very, very mindful of that. All right, thank you all so much for listening. Have a great day. I'll see you guys very soon in the next one. Make sure you watch the levels I called out. And for now, Tesla still remains in this more bearish phase. I'll see you guys again in a couple of hours, and peace out.